Minnesota is the only place that I know where it is negative 15 degrees outside and they think it's warm enough to pull out the winter shorts. There are numerous different amounts of dialects to study in this world, and I picked the Minnesotan dialect. The Minnesotan accent is a dialect that can be pointed out of the crowd with ease, because it's a very distinctive way that people talk. I'm going to go over the history of the Minnesotan dialect, the different sayings and the pronunciation of the words, and the different stereotypes. I have learned so much from this language, and I can't wait to share my knowledge with the rest of my class. Being from the United States, we are a very diverse country because we had immigrants that came from all over the world to the United States. Different ethnic groups migrated to the United States for a different life, and along with that new life, they brought a new language. The immigrants also had their own language and slowly learned English, and then they had this a little bit of their own twist to it. Another reason why they talked the way they do is because of our different social classes, because each class was taught differently on the way they're supposed to talk. So along the border of Canada is the Minnesotans, where it's nice and cold. The Minnesotan accent originated from the Scandinavians and the Germans. Generation by generation, their accents changed and formed into something. They had their own twist of a language, and they formed their original dialect that's new and that was unique to the rest of the world, and the Minnesotan dialect. The Minnesotan accent is very different compared to the rest of the way people talk. My mom was born in Minnesota, and she lived there for a while until she had to move. She didn't notice at the time, but everyone told her she sounded like a Minnesotan. It's very easy to get it when you're get the accent when you're young, but it's really hard to get rid of because of the different vowel sounds that you use. They're really heavy on the O monophthong sound, which makes you hold out your vowels longer. There are so many different sayings in this dialect apart from other parts of the country. Like they say, you betcha, which is a way to reply to something or say I appreciate you or even answer a question. Another saying is that's different, and that's replying to a statement or something that you kind of say in a different way. My mom uses that expression very, very frequently. With each different language, I feel that you can assume or make fun of different dialects. And I don't make fun of my mom, but I hear what other people say about the certain phrases that she says, and you can totally hear it. One of the biggest stereotypes that Minnesotans deal with is the Minnesota nice, and that's kind of like when you're having conversation with someone and you're feeling really good, but then you also feel confused, like you don't really know what just happened. Nobody's overly perky all the time, but someone can hold it much longer than usual. Other people can. People for years confuse the Minnesotan accent with the Canadian accent, but they sound nothing alike. Canadians use more of the A but the Minnesotans do the O instead. So there's a little bit of difference there. Another way of stereotyping a Minnesotan is by the show Fargo. That show overuses and is a very overly dramatic versions of Minnesotans. When you come to a different environment of an accent, you start to see that you or someone else has a funny way of talking, and it's just fun to catch all those habits. You can catch so many different habits with the Minnesotan dialect. It's a fun dialect that allows you to enjoy and what's different about them. There's so many ways to discover the different dialects of this world. My mom, being from Minnesota, really helped me with this research because I got a real life experience with a real Minnesotan. I totally enjoy diving deep into the Minnesotan accent. I was able to learn about the history of the Minnesotan accent, the sayings and the pronunciations, and the stereotypes and the struggles of every day. Getting a different view on someone else's dialect, it really makes you think about how we're all different from each other and that we all can learn different languages at the same time.